strategy,
design,
marketing,
UX,
digital.
development.
This is Agencies That Build. This show is dedicated to leaders and teams that design and deploy in the digital world. My name is Jessie, and I'm a marketer and an agency owner.
And I'm Varun. I'm not a marketer, but a coder and an agency partner.
This show is sponsored by Together We Ship.
On a mission to help agencies grow.
Rock on. Here we are. Varun, my friend. It's been a couple of weeks since we chatted. So
I know. August has been pretty busy, pretty interesting from various aspects. I think it's a good time to spend so much time with the family. So yes, I think everybody took off. So it's great to be back.
Are
And
the kids
we're
back
doing
to
it
school yet?
next
We
week.
go late here, right?
Next week.
Oh yeah. So it's for those listening, we're in Massachusetts, and Fred will ask you this in a minute too, maybe. But the kids go back late here. I know a lot of my nieces and nephews in the middle of the country are already back. So, but all right. Are you ready for today's guest? Should we dive in?
Let's do it.
All right. Data forms the backbone of the majority of entrepreneurial decisions we make, from business deals to expansion. But sometimes we forget the effort that goes into managing the data itself. Today, we have someone who has expertise in analytics, and we're looking forward to this chat quite a bit. He's an experienced presenter, a teacher, has also created several online courses for newcomers. I'm happy to welcome Managing Director, GTM Practice Lead at Northwoods Digital, Fred Pike, to the podcast. How are you, Fred?
Oh, I'm great. And I'm so excited about this. Thanks, Jesse. Thanks, Varun. This is going to be cool.
Yeah, we're happy to chat with you. We haven't, I know we're going to dive into a couple different areas that we haven't touched yet on the episode, but I think Varun has a question.
Uh-oh.
Varun, go. What do you got?
Yes. So I want to begin with, as we come close to the summer, every summer, we try to, as everybody, spend so much time with the family, do a lot of travel. But at the end of the day, I always ask my team, my family, everybody around me, what is the one thing that you learned from this experience? So what was your most memorable event, or how would you describe how the summer has been? I'll start with mine so you get some time to think about yours. Like, what would you describe? So for us, the summer has been, the word that comes to mind is hiking or family hiking. We did so many mountains together as a family. My 5-year-old and 9-year, they did their first 4,000-footer mountain.
Wow.
It's called Mount Cannon in New Hampshire last week. Super proud, so impressed by the way they handled it. So I'm so happy that we could enjoy the summer outdoors, with our kids. So that's been my theme for the summer. What about you, Jesse? What do you have?
Mine actually happened last week, and we were just talking about it before we started the episode. So outside of getting the dog, who you will see running around in the background here, my daughter started walking. So she's 14 months last week. And so that was, mom and dad cried a little bit because we were just so excited to see it and happy to see it. So that was, and now she just woke up one day and was like, yep, I'm good. I'm going to go. And I was like, oh crap, we got a baby proof. So, but that for me was like one of those moments that you just look forward to and you're waiting, and she just woke up and was like, I'm good, let's walk. Holy cannoli, this is amazing. So, all right, Fred, what do you got?
Jesse, nothing beats a kid's first week walking. Holy cow. So it's not fair that I have to follow that, but
oh, sorry. No,
no, that's fine. That is so exciting, Jesse. That is so cool. So a year ago, we got solar panels installed, and actually they went live. We got the solar panels and the Tesla battery to supply power when we lose power, basically. And ever since then, I've been thinking, I really want an electric car. I mean, the last car I bought 5 years ago, I looked at a Tesla really closely, but I didn't buy it. And this time around, I'm thinking, all right, we've got the solar panels. I hate paying these gas prices. I hate subsidizing Saudi Arabia. So I got an electric car 10 days ago now and took the first road trip this weekend. And so the learning experience is, where am I going to charge this? And what is going to be involved with that? And how am I going to worry about range? Because I got the Lexus, which I absolutely love, but it sucks on range. It's really on the low end of the range. And so we stopped at one place in Madison on our trip, And it took me a while to figure out the charger. It took me 20 minutes to figure that out. And the hotel that we were staying at that night, I had called and they said, oh no, we have no charging. There's nothing in town. We have no outside power or anything. I'm thinking, oh, damn. So I got there, and of course I found an outside outlet, and I was able to plug in, and we were there for a couple of days, and I got to 100%. It was just fine. But I'm going to be thinking differently about trips now, and I'm so glad I have the electric car. But it does change how you think about trips and how you have to plan that. So just beginning.
It's interesting. My dad got one too, and he had a similar experience. He they live about an hour away, and he was like, I don't know if I'm comfortable driving up to you guys. I'm like, dude, there's so many power outlets up here. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Even if there are power outlets, it's like long line. A lot of people have cars now, and you need to wait until you get space to do that. So until we come up with the technology that allows you to replace the batteries, just take your old battery out, get the new one in, so get it very quickly. That's the way to go.
Or hamster wheels inside that powers as you go.
Yeah.
That's why you have hybrid. So plug-in hybrids would be something.
I'm cutting us off because I know this group. We could talk about this forever.
We could, because I looked at plug-in hybrids.
Whole other conversation, whole other
Right.
podcast. All right, so let's dive in. Let's dive into our myth busting question. What's some sort of bogus myth, misconception, strategy, bogus strategy? I said that odd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you got? What do you got that you want to clear the air about and set the record straight on?
Yeah, so actually, this was one that I struggled with, but and I went from personal things to business things, and I ended up going with a business one. And that almost all the work I do is around Google Tag Manager. And I noticed, Jesse, when you read GTM, you went with go to market, which is what a lot of marketers think for GTM, but in my world, it's Google Tag Manager. So when GTM, Google Tag Manager, first came out, it was like, any marketer can do this. You don't need a dev staff anymore. You can install your own marketing snippets. You can do all the work. And while that's kind of true, oh my God, that can be so dangerous, because if you don't know what you're doing in Google Tag Manager, you can be really duplicative. You can break things. If you're not aware of what other people have done, you can cause the page load to be really slow. You can wreak havoc, or you can just do things really crappily in Google Tag Manager. So this myth that anybody can do it, while technically true, it's really not a good idea. So that's my contribution.
I feel like now I have so many questions, because there's a client that I've been spending a ton of time with trying to figure it out. And actually, Varun's team has been working with me, and I'm like, guys, I just need you to hold my hands. Tell me what the heck I'm doing in here so I don't screw it up. That's all. I want to dive into that a little bit. And I did assume it was GTM, go to market. I probably should have asked you that at the beginning. So thank you for it was like one of those practice lead. That's where you go.
Before we get into the tactics of the GTM and how and why, I'm curious to learn the idea behind starting this practice and you leading this role, like you being one of the leaders in the agency, and maybe describe us a little bit about how you came about this need for having a practice around GTM, and how does your background fit in this? How are you into this? So how you got into this role?
Yeah, Varun, that's a great question. So that's not what I was doing initially at all. So earlier on in my career, I was a software developer. So that's kind of my background. That's kind of my mindset in general. But I also have an MBA in finance. And in this agency, where I'm one of three partners, I am the CFO. And so I was working on all the financials and modeling and all that type of stuff. But we build websites. And so I was interested in that as well. And one of the things that we preached about to our clients was analytics and measuring user interactions, meaningful user interactions on the website. So I took a course in 2015 on CRO, on conversion rate optimization. So I thought, that's related to finance to some extent. At least it's numbers oriented. And what I realized in that course is that while I thought I knew Google Analytics, I didn't know squat. So from that course, I signed up for a Google Analytics course. And again, this is all quantitative, so it fits in with my mindset. So I signed up for the GA course with Jeff Sauer and took that, and it just revolutionized my world. I then took a Google Tag Manager class from Julian Joeneman at Measure School, which was fabulous. And those things just started to feed my passion. They were emotionally, so I was intellectually curious about them, and it fed that intellectual curiosity. It fed an emotional satisfaction of really learning and diving into this. And it made sense to apply it to our clients as well. So the more I dove into GA and GTM, the more I realized we should be doing this for our clients. They need to be doing this. They need to understand what's happening with their website. They need to be tracking the meaningful user interactions. And so it just grew into a practice eventually. And it was just because, damn, it's so interesting. It was so much fun to do. And that's how I kind of got into it.
I quick question on that, because I've looked at, personally, it's something my brain doesn't think that way. And so when for me, thinking about data and analytics, I've had to force myself to learn and understand and really appreciate, how that works. I know there's a better description to that, but I've looked at all kinds of different courses for Google and just in analytics in general, because it's not something they taught in school
Right.
back in the day. And when you're looking for a course that satisfies the curiosity, are people looking, what's the right terminology to use? Is it basics? Is it beginning? What's the, do you recommend somebody, as we're trying to expand what we're offering within agencies and expand kind of our curiosities behind this, but is that the right place to start, is with Google Analytics, or GA4 obviously is the one to focus on, or do you recommend another topic?
That is also a great question. The what you're trying to get at, of course, is figuring out how people are interacting with your website. I mean, that's the purpose of all this stuff. I'm not aware of a course that really focuses on that, except through the lens of GA4 or Adobe Analytics or Matomo or whatever. So I think that's the way you approach it. And I think you go in at an intro or beginner level course, and you have to understand in all those analytics packages, you have to understand the structure of the analytics, because it's how they record what's happening on the website. So I think if you understand that, and GA4 has what's called an event-driven model, which to me, that's how we approach the world. And we can go into that if you want. But yeah, so I think you go with a course that is intro, that describes the model that's being used to capture that information, and talks about what's the type of information you should be tracking. And that's a big part of, like Julia says at Analytics Mania, Jeff said Data-Driven You. They really think about the business, what you're trying to track from a business perspective first, and then how do you do that through GA?
Yeah. That makes sense. I think that's very helpful, because I also personally struggle with where to begin. And that's why I think this question is great for many people to get them started, especially, from you, or if you have done this and you are doing it at a level where you are running the whole practice. And it's not only, it sounds like it's your personal interest, but also it's adding a lot of business value to your clients and customers as well. So how big is your team who does just the analytics part of it?
Well, so everybody that's on the digital marketing team, we've got 12 people or so on that side, does analytics to some level or another, and does Google Tag Manager to some level or another. Because it's kind of the baseline. I mean, if we have people who specialize in Google, in ads, basically, in paid ads, we have people who specialize in SEO, but analytics and GTM is kind of Google Tag Manager is kind of the baseline for all those things. So everybody does it here. So
who would you describe would be an ideal customer that would want to use this as, a service offering? Because we work with so many agencies. There are so many agencies we speak to. This is the first time we are hearing that you have, GA4, GTM as a practice and offer just that to all your customers, along with the other things that you do. And you are heading that division. I mean, we've seen digital marketing managers leading that as a part of their role, that they have to, know and understand how Google Analytics work in general. But you are taking it to a level where it's, you are like positioned as a specialist for that. So how do you lead that? So when in your client acquisition process, do you lead that with Google, with analytics, or that comes as a complement to your other services? How do you structure the offering when you talk to the clients?
Sometimes we lead with that if that's how the request came in, and certainly as the world made the transition from Universal Analytics to GA4, we got a lot of requests coming in for analytics. So we would lead that way. I would say we typically wouldn't lead a new client discovery through an analytics process. It's usually the way we would typically approach a new client is through some type of strategy, trying to understand what they're trying to do with the website and how are they measuring how effective their plan is with the website. And the measuring portion, of course, is what leads into the GA/GTM side. So that gets wrapped in, but our first thing is, okay, what are you trying to do with the website? How can we help you do that better? Is it working? Are there things that we can help you improve? Are there things you can improve? So that's how we would approach it.
And in your prep call, you also talked about how you use the data, not only for the website, but in general, since you have the finance background. I'm curious to know and hear from you how you apply those learnings in the operating your business. So like, how do you use your data experience and make sure you are taking the right decisions for the business? I mean, pivoting from the analytics to more on the business side. So
Sure.
If you can talk to about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the analytics side as you said, isn't involved with that at all. On the business side, I think the thing that's really important that has helped me and the companies I've been involved with over the years has been a model of the business. And so it's not the business model, it's a model of the business. And by that, I mean, who are the people that you have on staff? What are the types of revenues that you expect them to deliver? What are the services you're going to be providing? Which ones are going to be growing? Are you going to be adding people? Are you going to be potentially downsizing? Are you going to have different level? And typically we look at different levels, up to 3 different levels of growth. So, a small, moderate, explosive, or whatever, not explosive, but high. And so all that is it's ultimately in a spreadsheet, but it's a pretty sophisticated spreadsheet. And you can really figure out what is your business going to look like 12 to 18 months out in terms of revenue, in terms of expenses, in terms of practice areas. And that to me has just been so helpful, so eye-opening over the years, because if we look at adding new staff, for example, all right, so how long is it going to take them to come up to speed? What are we going to pay them? When are they going to start paying? When are they going to start producing revenue? How quickly will they ramp up? All that is reflected in the model of the business. And we get a sense, okay, yeah, it makes sense that we can do this. It may hit profitability for 3 months, but then it's going to improve over 6 to 9, 12 months and moving forward. So I think having that, and it's a pain to develop, and I've never found a really good forecast. It's basically a forecasting tool. I've never found a really great forecasting tool that has fit a professional services business like the ones I've been involved with. And you would think there'd be something like that out there, but I never found one. And so I developed it internally.
Well, tools would be as good as the data, right? I mean, forecasting for service businesses has been a challenge unless you have a model where you have recurring business. I mean, or clients who have the recurring revenue streams.
Sure.
Because so we are also in digital space, so we do custom software dev as well, but most of the clients are, we build a product in 3 to 6 months and they are done. Like, yes, there are support and maintenance things, but you cannot predict your business growth based on just support and maintenance contract, unless you have a business which is solely focused on support and maintenance, and that this is the revenue I'll generate from that, and then this is the team we need. But when you are working on custom software solutions type work, it is hard to forecast. You don't know. I mean, you can predict from your pipeline like, all right, we got 100 leads from that, we can have certain percentage of conversions, but still it has been a challenge. So I wonder, how do you solve that, and how accurately are you able to predict or forecast your business growth in the next few months?
Yeah, Varun, great question too. So what the model of the business doesn't do is address the sales side. So it's going to tell us if we're going to hire 3 more people or 3 more software devs or whatever, this is the type of revenue you expect them to develop. And so you've got, on the other side, you've got to be thinking, all right, why would I want to hire those people? What's the thinking behind that? And we also look at the salespeople we have, the type of revenue that we expect them to drive, shortfalls between the staff that we have to deliver services versus the salespeople we have to sell that amount of services. So it doesn't solve we have 6-month software dev projects. Where is the next one going to come from? That's really, to some extent, more of a sales marketing side. What I'm looking at is, can we support that? Do we need to hire people to support that? What is our plan for growing that overall? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not a pipeline problem, a sales pipeline problem that you can solve. It's how do we ensure that we have the right, it's a revenue delivery.
Right.
The way, so
yeah, and Varun, we have a software dev component to our company also, and so I understand that. And the 3 to 6 month projects, where's the next one coming from? And I'll tell you, we just finished a large one in like January of this year that had gone on for months and months and months, and we overhired for it, so we're paying for that now. And we didn't think it would fall off the cliff quite so quickly. So it doesn't guarantee success, but I think it makes me feel better about where the business could be going. And if regardless of the sales pipeline, if you're looking at the business and you can't see any way with the staff that you've got and the services that you're offering that you're going to be profitable, it's like, all right, what's wrong here? What do you have to do to get to a level of profitability? And that's what the model of the business can do, can tell you, can you be profitable? And what does it take to be profitable? And if you can't, then you've got some other hard decisions to make.
Well, it's also, talking with agencies, everybody, profit's obviously a major goal, but what does that look like? And what does success look like for your growth trajectory? We have some agencies that are just focused on maintain versus, the hockey stick situation. You mentioned something a minute ago, and I want to ask what you do about that, the overstaffing or the overhiring, or the abundance of ability to produce something without the clientele to produce it. What do you do in those situations? Do you to have them work on other projects that benefit the business? How do you guys solve the need
Keeping
to
them busy, and not even just the busy, but also
make it beneficial
and make sure that they are still motivated, right, to stay in the company, because people, like, knowledge workers these days want to be, utilized. They don't want to be on the bench all the time, right? So how do you make sure that they are enjoying their time with your firm?
Yeah, so the way we do that, and you do have to keep them engaged and working on something that is interesting to them. Otherwise, they can walk, and in some cases maybe that's good, but we'd rather control that. So what we're going through right now is really looking at, all right, do we want to keep everybody on staff that we hired for this? And it's not just, primarily we're looking at juniors, because we did grow an intern program this last year, and that's been really slow in getting to fruition, basically. And we're thinking, do we really want to keep investing in that or not? So that's one thing. The way we're keeping people busy right now is on internal projects, and we have a few skunk works type things that we've been meaning to work on for a while. So we're happy to invest in them, and that's it's a combination of the skunk works and of also getting them to continue learning and be able to work in some with some advanced skills when more work comes along. But it's a balancing act. I mean, we don't want people to be, they don't want to be sitting around not on a project, and we don't want them to be sitting around not on a project for very long either. So it's a tough thing to balance.
It's that the internal skills enhancement that a lot of, companies usually have that built into, when you're client side, when you're working internally, it's like, oh, spend half, an afternoon enhancing your skills or learning something new. But it's hard in an agency because the revenue model is different, as we kind of talked about earlier. So it's like people sitting on their booties doing nothing. It's like, okay, you're feeling the money tick away, in some cases, depending on how your org is set up. But it sounds like, interns aside, because that's a whole nother big fat can of worms that we could talk about. It sounds like there's, it's keeping your key players engaged. And if somebody walks, I would say would be the recommendation that we're hearing from you guys.
So one thing that we have started doing in our company, but not only that, we've also started hearing a lot from other agencies based in North America. I mean, our team is mostly offshore, but so I can see the difference in the approach. But even in here, North American companies have seen what they started doing was like not giving them, so just to keep them busy, you can start offering, discounted price or reduced hourly rates for your services. But that's really frowned upon most of the time. People don't like to compromise on the price. One thing that I have started seeing a lot and hearing from many agencies, so I was surprised to hear that because in this economy, at least when there is dearth of work, there's not many companies who are hiring agencies. But so there's a demand that I'm seeing in offering services in pro bono basis. So you are not giving for free, but a lot of people are offering, partnerships and collaboration on a pro bono basis, which is not really discounted price. You're asking for the full money, but at least you are giving the client confidence in, hire us, work with us, and then, next stage, or depending on the success of you're taking a risk with the client, which is again, could be very risky, but again, depending on the client to client, on agency to agency. So I don't know if what's your take on that? Have you ever experienced that? Have you done that? Or how do you?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. We are starting a pro bono project this week, but I'm the president of the Milwaukee Mandolin Orchestra, and we're starting a related project that the orchestra has been looking at for a while. And so I brought it internally because we do have some availability, and it is going to advance the skills of the developer that's going to be on that project. That's not something that we typically would do, and I wouldn't say we're out there looking for pro bono work or even thinking about offering it, but this week we are starting a project.
Good timing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the agencies we talk to have passion projects involved. There's quite a few, and especially I think in the past 5 years in particular, people are leaning into this. Cause marketing is one way to describe it, but even just feeling good about the work you're doing and be able to take those skills and apply it to other things that, because we're all human. So
I like that term, passion projects. That's good. Yeah.
Well, it's here's a personal story, and then I'm going to pivot our question. One of the things we get asked all the time, around Christmas time or the holidays, people ask, oh, will you make a donation? Will you make a donation? And, it gives you all the feels. And it's like, well, how do we get our arms around being able to say no to people when we've already dedicated money to other resources? And I think, and so in our family, we support 3 organizations. We support the elephants. We support and 2, they're all animal based. So we support elephants, the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. We support Stand Up for Pits Foundation because we always adopt pit bulls. And then we recently rescued a bunny. That's a whole nother story. It went to a rescue. The dog was nosing it. We didn't want it to. But there's a local organization who's looking for donations. It's like, oh, I guess, new house. wildlife rescue, who saved the bunny. So it was like, okay, so we've made a decision, and it the same applies to business. That's conscious. Like, these are the things that we support within our family. So when I say no to somebody else, I'm okay with it because I've already made those decisions up front. And so when it comes to business and things like that, that's how we've structured it when I've run various marketing teams within organizations. What are the things that fit into the mission, vision, values of the organization or the agency that you're then going to support in terms of those passion projects and where you're going to spend the time, energy, and money in some cases. So I want to pivot for a quick minute.
Sure.
I want to ask you about the project, the practice lead role, because it's not something you always see within agencies or a lot of the agencies we talk to. And I think it's a really unique, you as an expert in GA and GTM, Google. I think it's a unique role for you within your organization. How did you guys decide that that was the right direction to take with your expertise there? And then how do you market that, to be beneficial?
So I wouldn't say that we actually planned this. It grew organically from really my interests, and that is not unusual at Northwood. So we encourage people to, if they are really interested in something, to develop that. And we had a person who is very passionate about WordPress, for example. So he actually took the ball, and we now have a WordPress practice. And I mean, he vetted it with us, and we agreed ultimately with it, but it was his passion that was driving that. And I'd say that's the same way with the GA GTM side. And the way I think the way we sell it, it's not like we're doing it overtly, but when I'm on a call with a client, I'm talking about, these are the things that you should be looking for. These are the things you want to be aware of. It's unlikely that any other agency that they're talking to, or that most other agencies that they're talking to, have brought up those same points. And so many times we win business because we're talking about things that no one else has ever talked about to that client. And so that speaks to the level of expertise that we have in that realm. And that's not just with GA/GTM. I think we see that in some of the other areas as well. But certainly the area that I'm most involved with, the GA/GTM side, that's often the case.
How long did it take you to do that? Like you said, it grew organically, but you didn't have a plan that you want to do that. So you saw a need, you saw that this is something growing up and could have a potential to become big. What was the time horizon that it took you to, take like one person to, I don't know how big like you said, all the digital marketing team is doing that now. So you are, what percentage of the business is from this revenue stream?
Well, you're making him think.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really break it out that way, but I would guess it's maybe 7-8%, something like that is related to that. I mean, it's hard to break out because, yeah, and you are making me think, which is really unfair. I've barely had my coffee, but because GA/GTM is usually part of other projects. So there are times where it's a discrete sale of a project, but it's usually involved with much larger strategy or much larger projects.
It's an interesting way to organize kind of the expertise within an agency. Now that, after I asked a question, I thought about it for a hot minute, and there was an agency I worked at. I was hired specifically to be like a content marketing, in a lot of ways, practice lead, without using those words. And I think, it sounds like you guys have your organization organized. And I'm thinking as I'm saying this out loud, within these, aligned with seniority expertise that then trickles down through the organization to create, I'm going to assume it's like a succession planning or training or mentoring kind of mentality behind it. Is that that was done purposefully in those cases? We've talked to agencies all shapes and sizes. Some people are pretty flat in terms of expertise. They come in, everyone's a senior person. They're not interested in this mentoring and growing and education piece. And that's great. Sounds like you guys are the opposite. It's much more of you're built to be able to kind of mentor, grow, and especially with some of your personal experience around teaching. Am I guessing correctly there?
Absolutely. Yeah. I there's a lot of mentoring that goes on our digital team, and I do a lot of mentoring on the GAGTM side, but our strategy person, our SEO person, the ads person that leads up that group, we are very much a learning organization, very much a mentoring organization, and all of us have, skills across, have some level of expertise across all those skills, but all of us go deep into one or two areas. So as I said, everybody has GAGTM skills, but some people go deeper in ads, some people go deeper in SEO, some people go deeper in strategy or whatever. So.
Well, and I like the way that you described it. There was a team member who was interested in an area, and the agency supported him growing that into a practice as well. So that says a lot about the ability to kind of explore and grow from that perspective, and leaning into some of the education components that you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, the people who've been successful at Northwoods have ultimately been driven by a passion to do something specific within Northwoods. And not everybody has done that, of course, and they've been successful here too. But the people who've really risen, who are in leadership positions now, have all had that type of passion, have all seen, it'd be really cool if we did this, and really help develop it.
Yeah, curiosity satiated.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also curious to know more about, so this again comes up so much in our conversations on the right fit customer, right? How do you define your ideal customer, and how do you approach it? Because sales has been, talk of the town these days. Everybody is talking about what is your sales strategy? What are you doing to generate leads? And the first thing that comes up is like, to do anything in the sales, it's about, making sure your positioning is right, you are reaching the right audience. So for you, how do you think about that? How do you approach it? What are you doing to make sure your positioning is strong, and that other agencies, owners can learn from that?
Yeah, so I think the way we try to grow and attract new clients is through thought leadership, and we do that through a couple of things. One is through blog posts. We're fairly active in writing things there, and they're around many different digital marketing strategies or aspects. And the other thing is through our webinars. We've always had a strong series of webinars. We have even now 2 a month that we put on, most of them around digital marketing of some sort, sometimes around software, but almost all of them around digital marketing. I'll be doing a GA one in October, for example. And so it's the thought leadership that we try to present out there that we're hoping will bring in clients. Now, much of our work is from existing clients, but we do get a fair amount of new business each year. And our ideal client is, we're pretty broad horizontal. We do a lot of manufacturing, but we have a lot of financial, we have a lot of healthcare clients as well. And our ideal client is, they usually have some level of digital marketing staff. So it's rare that they don't have anybody. And we are primarily supplementing them and helping them in their day-to-day job. Many of our clients don't have the level, for example, don't have the level of expertise in GA that we do, so we help them with that. It could be the same thing with SEO, could be the same thing with ads, but I'd say most of our clients do have pretty good digital marketers on staff, and we really just increase their skills. And that is kind of a sweet spot client for us.
Well, Fred, this has been a great chat. And I am, like, as we're chatting, I'm sure I'm like Googling these GA courses. I'm like, I need to go learn more about those. But let me ask you one last question. We ask all our guests, what are you looking forward to in the future? What's exciting you about the future? What's
exciting me about the future is continuing to learn. But what's really exciting me right now is, and this is, it's exciting the whole world, but the whole ChatGPT stuff is just, the way I'm using it now, it is extending my ability to do things so greatly. I'm 80% amazed and 20% frustrated as hell, because it can be obtuse. It doesn't remember context very well, but it's helping me expand SQL queries, which I'm not good at SQL. It's helping me even doing some Google Tag Manager stuff. Having it as like a trusted advisor almost, as long as you feed it the right questions, it'll come back with usually some really good advice and sometimes not very good advice. And so I'm so excited about learning this whole area and how it can, I think it's improving my efficiency 20, 25%. 25% is probably too much, 20% any rate. And that just has me jazzed. It's like, holy cow. And I feel like I'm barely scratching the surface of using it, but it's like, it's amazing, I think. Yeah.
Great use of ChatGPT I used recently. I ran out, so every night I put my kids to bed, and I usually come up with my own stories to tell them stories, right? So I read the book. So I stopped reading book. Now I'm running out of ideas. So I asked ChatGPT, give me a story about dash 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 where my son's name, like, and I use his name. He's the character, and I want to teach him the lessons of bravery and being kind. So it gives me a really good story about, involved dinosaurs, prehistoric time, where he is the hero. And then he's listening to me reading through, again, I didn't do anything. I just used the prompts to craft me a story. So that's the best use that I found most recently that I absolutely love.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Meal planning is another one. If you have, I read this someplace, dietary restrictions on various things and all of that, you can use that to prompt, and then it'll create you a shopping list.
Wow.
So there's oh man, we should have asked AI earlier, but that's always a good one. Well, Fred, this has been a great chat. Thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. It's wonderful to talk to both of you, man. I love this.
Good. Well, so places where folks can find you, you're on the LinkedIn, Fred Pike, and then www.nwsdigital.com is your website. So, and that's it. So if you learned something today or laughed, please tell somebody about the podcast. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for listening. Find our other episodes on agenciesthatbuild.com. Plus, we're listed anywhere you find your favorite podcast.